ulinifanya nione umbali nami. Ukweli ni kuwa uliposema hutaniacha kamwe, hivyo tu ndivyo unavyotenda. Na hulali pia waniwaza. Baba, nipe uvumilivu, uvumilivu. Baba, nipe uvumilivu, uvumilivu. Siku zangu zote nikungoje. Uvumilivu, uvumilivu, uvumilivu. Yesu, nitakungoja Yesu, nitakungoja, 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 ninakungoja Yesu, ninakungoja, 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 nitakungoja Yesu, nitakungoja, 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 ninakungoja Yesu, ninakungoja, ninakungoja, ninakungoja. Nitakungoja Yesu, nitakungoja, nitakungoja, nitakungoja. Baba, nitakungoja, oh Yesu, nitakungoja Yesu, nitakungoja, 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 nitakungoja.
A very good afternoon, guys. We are excited to come live to you today. This is Homescapes. If you're new and wondering what is happening here at Mamlaka Chapel Raka, as usual, we are very excited. My name is Jasmine Wangai. I have a wonderful team, universally acclaimed team, again ready to be coming live to you and to answer questions and go on different topics. So the real question today is, are you ready? Karibuni sana. I'm going to introduce the team. I'll start from my extreme left. Please say hi to the people.
Yeah, hi everyone. It's wonderful to be here. We're looking forward as usual to our banter back and forth. So right in, let's hear your opinions and hopefully we can give you an answer that you can take to the bank.
Karibu Bishop.
Yes, Auntie.
And my name is Lorraine Bondi. I
Yeah.
serve here as well. I'm happy to be here today. Leo kuna ka topic ka interesting and we're about to, I don't know. I'm waiting to see how
You're
this
waiting
goes
to see
down.
how it
I'm waiting
goes.
to see how it
I
goes
know,
down.
me too.
Yeah.
That's why we asked, are they ready
Yes,
for this?
yeah. That's whether they are ready. Yes, we are ready.
Yes, we're ready.
I was about to say, even as we don't know how it will go.
But we are ready to handle whatever comes.
we will.
Yeah, karibu sana Lo.
Thank you.
And to my right, karibu sana Rev Lovi.
Asante sana, Reverend Jasmine. It's good to be here on
Yes,
set.
yeah.
I was away for a few shows, but niliambiwa because of the weight of this topic, they need my expert opinion.
Yeah.
So I had to come back.
Of
Yeah,
course.
right. Yeah, right.
It's been a while. It's good to have you back.
to be back.
Karibu sana sana.
to
You know,
be
the
back.
team has already started chocharing, you know, what you're talking about. So let me bring you on board. Last week, we started an interesting topic on dating relationships. You know, those young, single kind of people things that people go through. You know, relationships are always exciting. And we
Predating etiquette.
Dating, yeah. We called it pre-dating etiquette or decorum, if you like. And today we want to delve a little deeper. So we'll talk about what happens when you're already inside the relationship. And then, on top of that, we'll add on to exes, the topics of breakups. What do you do with them? And that will be my first question for the team today. You know, as we were debriefing with the team after the show last week, there's something very interesting, I have to qualify that our bishop said. We were debriefing with the team, someone asked a question, and then and it had to do with an ex, someone who was dating and had an ex, and then Bishop said, hii maneno ya ex inatoka wapi? There's nothing like an ex if you're not married. Tukabaki. What? What are you trying to say? And we thought we want to discuss it on show. Ndio ukweli semwe mbele ya watu wakisikia. So that's my question for the team. And I'll start with you, Bishop. Sababu, you are the pioneer of this, of that heavy and controversial statement.
So I deserve to be thrown under the bus. That's what you're saying, in a kind way. Sawa tu. Let's hope the bus is high enough, it rides over me.
I think you deserve it. We want to hear it from you. What do you mean when you say there's nothing like exes when it comes to relationships if you are not married? What are you saying about all the investments, emotional investment, time, resources that has happened in this relationship, and then say, if you break up, there's nothing like an ex?
Okay. Now, I think it's good to create the context within which the discussion was happening. I think one of the things that is interesting, we've been saying here, there is no risk-free relationship. Exactly. Okay? So it's in the context of risk. And even love is a risk that people take. Okay? The only love that has no risk is the love of God for you. You know, that one has no risk.
Not even yours for God.
No, wewe utaweza kujipanga tena, you can diss God, na umejipanga. So, I mean, if you think about it, that's a love that is really promised, the agape love, you know, that one that comes, overtakes, pursues, overwhelms, and eventually conquers. Only that is a kind that does not fail. And so when you give your life to Christ, you know, you've taken the ultimate plunge, but there is no risk because underneath are the everlasting arms. So he'll never let you go.
Hey, share the
Bishop
gospel.
anasema hivi, mimi in my head I'm thinking, that's what we women want in a man, right? Umesikia hiyo description just?
Exactly.
Inasema, yani, I love that pursues, overwhelms, conquers, and everlasting
you
arms.
held like this. Imeshikiliwa hivi,
Unasikia,
nimesikia sana.
So okay, this is what we try to mirror. Okay, in marriage, hopefully, we try to mirror it. But of course, we are fallen, so it's never really. You know, you think underneath are the everlasting arms. Have you ever played that game where ati unajiangusha watu wanakupiga? You know. Sometimes even when you're
the trust game, the trust fall.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, many people will fall, but they are so stiff. If they could oppose gravity, angefanya hivi alafu warudi kama Michael Jackson. But you know, because you know you're dealing with human beings, and there's an aspect that is unpredictable about us. The reason that the question of exes, I think to me came out as, let's not do this. Because we say when you're dating, for example, you're checking each other out.
Yeah.
You're trying to find out, is this going to lead somewhere? Is it something solid?
Yeah.
And the truth is, it's in the exploratory stage when you're exploring.
Yeah.
You know, like these guys are, wanaitwaje talo, wakati wanatafuta mafuta.
yeah.
Wanaweka ka deposit, lakini they are exploring. They don't pay the whole amount because they might go to ngamia 1 or 2 and they find hakuna mafuta. Kama hakuna mafuta na ulilipa.
You cannot
Lakini
go
nani
in.
ana determine kama kuna mafuta na kama
cannot
hakuna
That's the
mafuta?
real question. ni
Wewe
nani?
kama unaona kuna mafuta
unaona
hapa.
kuna mafuta
Yes.
na mafuta the right thing, the right quality ile ya kuexport kwanza.
Yes. And then you discover
That there's
this
nothing.
person, you
Ati
know.
there's nothing.
Yeah.
Reverend Lovi vile anaadu huku.
Oh, look, there might be, but these are oil reserves for myself. You know, the US is the biggest, has the biggest oil deposits in the world.
Yeah.
Yet they import from Saudi Arabia. Wako na mafuta, lakini it's not for sharing.
Yeah.
America first, you know. So sometimes you might have been exploring the possibility of love with someone. Then you discovered, though you wanted to share your love with them, they are not at the same level. They don't want to share theirs with you.
Exactly.
And so, under those circumstances, maybe after a few exploratory outings and datings, even maybe a year or two, because you really like this somebody and they seem to like you back. But then you realize there is no depth or commitment to allow you to move ahead into the future. And so, unafanya ile inaitwa tactful withdrawal.
Yeah.
Sababu, you don't want to...
Tactful.
Tactful withdrawal.
Ghosting ama gani ile
Hata
inaitwa
mimi ndio
tactic?
ninashangaa.
Umeangalia, umejipanga, unajua hapa, there is no future. So then you break up with that somebody. The language of X, to me, suggests more than just a dating relationship.
Yeah.
It suggests to me a covenant relationship
Yeah.
that was there, that was sealed, that was so strong that when it is cut off, then it can become, there's still an attachment that goes beyond the breakup.
Yeah.
Okay? So you start referring to yourself, you know, and that person in the language of you're still together, but you broke up. You see, when it comes to marriage, that is allowable because marriage redefines your individuality in a different way.
Yeah.
It's like a chemical reaction, yeah? Both of you change. You're no longer the same element you used to be before, which is not the case in dating. In dating, you started single, you went out, you were dating, and then you broke up, you're still single.
Still single.
And everybody should see you only as that way. You know, it's advisable. And if they don't see you as that way, they are defining you from a point that shouldn't be defining you. And that is very important because there was no covenant between you and this individual that you were dating to cause you to have common foundations, for example.
Yeah.
Whereas in a marriage, you actually do have common foundations. You have a reference point. You have a day and a date when you became one. And therefore, you even exchange names. All right? So even when you break up, quote unquote, separate, divorce, you will still be defined by that defining moment of walking down the aisle and saying, I do, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, till death do us part. So you are actually one. So even if you break up, you know, to God is like, sorry, guys, we can't undo this. It's a done deal.
Yeah.
So that is your, that if in the unfortunate possibility that you separate and even divorce, you will still have the same common reference point. This was, in fact, if I meet you, I will still say, this is Jasmine, or the wife, the former wife to so-and-so. You'll still be the wife of so, that is your reference point. But it cannot be the same with somebody you just dated.
Yeah.
I mean, that was not
No,
your
but
reference
you see,
point.
people also still define you like that and they ask,
Eh.
and wanasema, ule Lorraine alikuwa girlfriend ya nani?
They still do. And Bishop,
Especially if we're in the
Bishop,
same community.
you've painted a very good picture of why.
Yeah.
We see why relationships, and especially marriages and probably engagement,
Yes.
we would refer them to them as exes.
Yes.
There's a covenant, there's investment, there's what
Yes.
before God, before people.
Yeah.
I'm still not seeing why these efforts that have been put in relationships, and some of these relationships have been very serious. Like the ones last week we kept referring to them and saying, we have been taught, you know, to date as if.
Tena by you men of the cloth.
Yeah.
You know? So what are you saying? Are you saying those efforts that had been put into that in trying to figure out, you know,
Are
can we,
nothing.
are they nothing? Are they futile? So,
Yeah. Let me just complete this thought, and then we'll hear Reverend Lovey.
Yeah.
You see, marriage is a fixed point.
Yeah.
Dating is not. It's a moving target.
It is.
Okay? Dating is a moving target. And in the event that you have 3 dating relationships, because you might not be fortunate to
Yeah.
meet your soulmate in the first, second, third, nth relationship.
I should say soulmate.
You
Okay.
know, it might not be the case. I can't refer to you as, oh, this is Jazz, for example, John's former girlfriend. I don't know. This other person that I know, John, he knows Mike. Oh, you mean Mike's former girlfriend? No. I mean, so, you know, Mwangi's former girlfriend. You can't, that's a moving target. And that's why the language of X to me is too strong to refer to a dating relationship. I would rather it refers only to a covenant relationship in the unfortunate event that it terminates. And we would hope that it doesn't. But if it does terminate, then that can be a fixed reference point, because that event itself is life-shaking, completely changes humanity. It's witnessed in heaven. It's a very serious event. So it can be, that is a fixed target. And then you can talk about somebody's ex-wife or ex-husband, because even if you get into a new relationship and you want to get married again, it behooves you to disclose to your new, possible husband that I had a former marriage and it broke. Even for him, he has to accept that. So that's a fixed point for me. But not so the dating relationship.
You even have to go to the government and search. Even the state, even the state recognizes that you were in a different state before.
These
And they
guys
will not
are-
allow you to marry until you sort out the situation of your previous state.
These guys are disregarding these efforts. I think, mi nashanga, did they ever have any breakups
Yes,
in their
hiyo ndo swali
relationships?
najiuliza number one.
Did they
Na
ever
number two,
experience?
Percy has used the word life shaking.
Yeah.
Have you never felt like your life has been shaken?
That I was about to say
Because
the exact
someone has
thing.
left you.
Has left you. And
Hey.
some are so bad, 10 years later, this
But no,
person
it's
still
not.
doesn't,
Yeah.
can't face you.
No.
Right? That's a life
Can I
shaking.
In fact, I've even remembered a story before you say what you want to say.
Sawa.
Na hii najua you are,
Near this.
Hapana.
I know of someone who, so this is a pastor. So he was in a fix at that point because there was a relationship that he had to sort. Because these people have been dating, they got engaged, they're 2 weeks away from their wedding day. Alafu wakiwa tu town, they are walking around. This guy used to date someone. Sasa sitaki kusema ex kwa sababu Bishop anakataa.
Tumekataliwa.
But before we agree whether the ex is or not, let me just call former ex.
Former
Okay. So this girl that he used to date,
Yeah.
wakapatana. You don't plan. They met and this guy got confused.
Akapata mshtuko wa roho.
Yani anashindwa yani he's not with himself, you get, because he has seen her. Sasa this one that he has engaged anabaki anashindwa. Yani you're telling me this is yani bado ukiona msichana you're behaving like this. You get?
Yeah.
Sasa imekuwa, are we getting married or not? Because you just mean, will you get married in 2 weeks to someone ambaye akiona ex, okay, former girlfriend, anatetemeka hivyo kwa sisi? What hope do you have?
Imagine, na siete kona ugonjwa nini.
Na
It's
sasa
just the sight.
pastor anasema that is your marriage ndio life shaking
Yeah.
event. Was this man not shaken?
This is
Clearly
literally
this is
shaken.
why he's behaving like this
Lorraine,
at this
Lorraine,
point.
especially if they're doing well.
Eh,
If they're doing well in life, where they left you, actually their life improved.
anaka ni kama, you're like this chick, why did I leave her again?
I know,
That
yeah.
becomes, that's why Jasmine is saying, many years down the line, bado kuna traces of
sijui tuite sijui gani
Tuite
dume
nini.
hiyo life shaking moments. I mean, they're real, they're there. So I still you guys have not done a good job of showing us why. That is not meaningful, that's not important. Because I feel like you guys are still disregarding all the efforts,
The investment.
all the investments, all the time that have been put into this relationship, trying to see whether it will work. It's
That's
true,
it, trying to
marriage.
see. That's it, trying to see if it will work.
But you don't try to see with everyone.
We also trying to be. One of the things I love about Homescapes is we are the ones who redefine society. God has brought us here not to endorse what has been practiced by society, but to show society what should be done. So this is one of those times, pivotal times in society, when we redefine what is usually the norm. Then two, I know we are fighting for clarity of definition, but that doesn't mean that we disregard the emotion. The problem is because we are fighting for clarity of definition, it looks like we are disregarding the emotion of what has gone through. If you were to study law and you spend 4 years in ADD studying and then you fail your final exams, you don't become a lawyer. You cannot represent me in court. I did not disregard that you spent nights.
Try to see whether you can.
You spent nights and it was very painful. And you
Lovely
bought
was you
books.
did on a break.
No, you know, for me, you bought books. You even went for pupillage. But you cannot represent anyone in court. Even you cannot allow me. Nikwambia Lorraine, you know, I failed those exams, but that lecturer alikuwa ananionea. You don't trust me. Let me represent you in court. You might lose 100 million shillings, but trust me, you will not. Because I can't call myself a lawyer regardless of the effort and the emotion and the investment. So my point is we are not disregarding the investment, but we're just saying because it did not cross a certain threshold called marriage, then it cannot be defined such.
So
And you shouldn't let it define you. I think
Wait,
the
you
challenge,
shouldn't let it define you.
Yeah.
the challenge of referring, you see, language is very powerful.
Very.
Language gives power to something. You know, so if you always refer to somebody as my ex, it means they still bear a certain level of control. You know, you're still defining yourself from that point of view. It's like this is the shamba I almost bought. So you will never go there and plant because somebody else went and bought it. They have fenced it. They have planted. Now they can eat those crops. Lakini watu ukipitia hapo kwanza unatokanga hapo, you know, this was almost mine. So unalinga around there.
you know, Jasmine.
It's not helpful.
I used to be in class with this guy.
So,
Who cares? He has made it,
you
you
know,
have
that
not.
leads me to this thing that men do. You break up. Kesho, Jasmine.
Aki, akona mresh purely as if nothing ever existed between the two of us. Na ameanza kumintroduce
Aya,
actually around
how?
kwa the friends wenye mlikuwa mna hang out nao pamoja mkiwa
This is my new catch.
Sasa watu wengi wanasema kai.
You're not that
Hata
bad.
bado wanamdescribe as unaona boyfriend ya Jasmine amepata
amepata
then bado
impact na
definition
kuanga
haijaisha.
haijaisha
but for
hata
them-
And they
hatujarecover.
move.
For them, kesho, even a year can be kesho. You don't think kesho is just 1 year is still kesho.
For who?
For Chiles, for
Yeah,
me,
because
For 1 day is like
let me
1,000
tell you,
years.
I've met women.
hasa itu ni 1,000 years ndio
Lorraine, I've met women. They used to date a guy. I mean, before Kibaki became president, right? The guy gets married in Uhuru's second term, and the chick still wants for them to meet and sort out issues because he moved on too quickly.
Closure.
So
Closure is
Closure is
again,
very important.
again, I agree with the bishop. I think part of it, you have to bear part of the blame for not being able to move on from something that ended. You see, if I had obligations to you when I was your boyfriend, right? And then we broke up. I don't have obligations to help you heal. That is a function of a
Ouch.
certain segment of society. It's a function of your friends, your mother, your church, but not me. Because I need,
Mpaka watu wa
I need
kamera
to fall
wanacheka.
back.
Mpaka watu wa kamera wanacheka logic yako.
I need to fall back to my community and heal. Because I was broken and you were broken. Healing is different.
But at this,
Healing
in
is
this case, we are
different.
not even sure you are broken.
Let me say,
Who
let me
Clearly
mwenye
you are
ana-
not
give
you
an
are
example.
not-
Can I give an
Eh.
example? So what can you give an example? We are going through COVID-19. There are people who get COVID and they don't get any symptom. There are people who get COVID and they get admitted for 6 months. So just as different as we are DNA-wise and experience and emotionally and upbringing, we will go through different different sessions and seasons to get our healing. So you can't fault me
Sasa wewe
for
unajua
getting to
ukisema
the
hivyo,
end of the
but
road
it
faster
seems
than you.
like men have that DNA for
It looks
moving
like it's for
fast,
all men.
alafu women have
That's
the
when they are
DNA
together
for
in this.
It's only
crying and crying for
Truth be
weeks.
told,
Yeah.
it's not only that. You know, you've never met a guy who has been left by a chick.
Yeah.
That guy is broken for a very long time.
Very
Me,
long.
I haven't.
And
Can I
he-
tell
you know,
you?
your
In
dem
fact-
anapata malaria, you know.
In
You've
fact,
just
no,
said
you
it right
remember,
now. Your friend who met the ex, akapata malaria.
Kapata malaria.
lakini unajua anaweza kuwa alikuwa anapata malaria kwa sababu like Maura said aliona ni kama since I left you, you have become better. Maybe it's not about
It's also that.
remembrance.
It's not about what we did in the past.
About-
Iko, nilifanya
I think,
ufala.
Eh.
I think the difference is on how we accept. Maybe men accept the situation differently as compared to the ladies. You know, men will say, this is what has happened, and especially if you hear that maybe you are, the person that you are dating has found someone else. The lady has been found by someone else. You get? So you say, that is another place I cannot, as a man, I cannot interfere. So, because that door will never open, let me move forward.
In
So
fact, it's very devastating for the guy.
Yes.
You are sharpatwa.
What did I-
You know,
what
so
did
there's
I have?
somebody who found her worthy.
Yes.
So you're left out in the cold.
Yes.
Unajipa tu moyo,
Exactly.
lakini unaendelea.
But
You move quite fast. But you see the lady on the other side, you know, she'll be reminded sometimes, you know, the guy that she has found her now might, you know, has some elements that are not very, very pleasing, like there. So, but this lady is still clinging. She has this, but remembers the pumpkins and the leeks and the onions
Of Egypt.
that we used to eat.
Sikia
in
vile
Egypt.
wanakiota.
goodness.
Hakuna.
So
Let
I
me
think
tell
the
you
thing is
kwanza,
this,
in fact.
I mean, accept, and I don't want to say move on, but accept that that's the reality.
Can I
Maybe
give my
men
answer
accept it faster.
before you give the caveat? It's actually a compliment to women, because I've noticed that women...
Not moving on quickly.
No, men moving on quickly. One,
compliment to
yes, you
women.
listen. Let me finish. Let me finish.
Unaona kama
Wow.
English haijapatana.
Yeah, hii kizungu itakubali. This English will find itself.
Go ahead.
You see, one, men appreciate that not everything has to happen separately. You can go through different processes at the same time. You can heal and move on at the same time. Life is not linear. So just because you're going through something doesn't mean everything else has to stop. So just because I've moved on doesn't mean I have healed. I can actually be, in the next 3 years of my relationship, I'll be a bit damaged because I'm healing from you. I have noticed, even in my own example, when I have moved on considerably faster, I would mention, I've been accused of that before. The person I moved on with knew about my pain with the other one, and they were willing to bear the pain with me and to walk with me through the healing as we dated. So I say it's a compliment to women because women
I
have
thought you said- I
have
thought you
an
said you go
enhanced
back to
capacity to bear the
society.
baggage of men. See, do not say
I
ma.
thought you go back to society, not to
See,
the next girlfriend.
that next
Right,
girlfriend is
Ama,
part
that's
of my
the
healing.
society.
No,
Society.
she's part of my healing. She's part of my healing.
Hiyo ni
As
kutumia
opposed
mtu
to
vibaya,
Kutumia
Rebecca.
mtu vibaya
listen,
sana.
si kumtumia,
Yeah, kwa
ni
hapa
kumwambia, this is where I am. I'm from a relationship, I have baggage, but when I see you, I see the future.
Hiyo si ukweli. Kwanza number one, hiyo si ukweli.
Can we
Hiyo si
pursue
ukweli kwa
the
sababu
future?
they don't say that.
Not
They
at all.
think that
We
in their
say
head.
you.
They
Lakini
never even
they
But we are the
reveal
ones
it.
who
you
say
that
you.
I love you and I
Uh-uh.
We are now telling
We are the
you
ones telling
that
you
this
what
is
we
what
tell them.
happens.
No.
Ati you-
Funny as we have not dated. Kwani
Are you
you
not
guys
the
are
one-
telling us
Are
what
you
has
not
been
the
on
ones who
them?
tell them?
No, that this is what happens on this other side.
Yeah.
That this has happened. Let's move on.
No,
Okay,
no.
Even Annie,
That
even
never
David.
comes
You
out
remember
clearly.
David?
Yeah.
David lost his son. You know, and he went through a very, very tough time. You know, and then immediately after that, you know, he
Comforted his wife.
he comforted
I've
his
got
wife.
another thing. That's what you're trying to say.
got-
But what I'm saying is this: you think it in your heads, but you don't tell that
It's
girl.
never
We do.
expressed.
No, we
In
do.
fact, you just
Funny as we're not those girls who have been there.
unashanga kwani
No, no, no,
hatujai
I
pitia,
don't
know.
kwani-
Yeah.
kama
Maybe
kwani
that's
tulikuwa
I'm
na
talking
kina
about-
nani,
Kwani sisi tumekuwa na
tumekuwa
kina
tukiwa
nani?
Lorraine,
kwa
that's a
wale.
different
I'm talking about the one who you're getting into a relationship with, not the one who you are in a relationship
No,
with.
no, no.
before.
We get that.
There's no woman, women are very emotionally intelligent. There's no woman who will allow you, the chick you're moving on with knows you are dating Lorraine for 9 years.
If you
She's
were
very aware
honest,
of
if
that.
there was full
No, she
disclosure.
knows. I'm sure she knows you're my ex. So there's
Bishop
no
amesema
woman in the
hakuna
world who I
ex, so
know,
anaweza kuja ni kama
Anaweza
ako-
even the
kuja
two
fresh.
of you, who would allow you to just pretend that did not mean anything to you. In fact, most of the time it's the woman who pokes and probes and makes you explain to her what you saw in Jasmine for 9 years. So they're usually very aware of where you're coming from. It's just that women are very accepting. That's why, I mean, there was an article, final point. There was an article in Uganda. There's a guy who has a deformity, and he went to a competition called the ugliest man in Uganda. Oh, I don't believe in these things of ugly or beauty, but he has a deformity on his face. And he
You don't
declared,
believe them, love?
yeah, beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Shall talk about this
So, so he's declared the
Season 3.
Season 3 of
he's
Homescapes.
declared the ugliest man in Uganda, and you can see he's not very. It takes time to get used to seeing him. But the guy has 3 wives. 3 beautiful wives. I applaud women because women are very accepting. And he's not even rich. He's a poor guy with 3 wives who love him. Completely.
They didn't
Mimi
accept
then I
So
say,
that's why I say when I say it's a compliment to women, I
No.
think. Okay, listen to this point. I think inherently women have been given a certain capacity to bear and to accept that is only divine to us men.
hey,
Who
Lovia
do not
anataka
have it.
Anachota
tukubali.
ndio tukubali, but I think it's because the men have been given the gift of first convincing you, and then
Yes.
after they're in, wanafanya hivi,
Yes.
wana release kidogo
Yes.
kidogo.
Ui, Jasmine.
Ukifika at some point unalefu unajiuliza,
Yes.
what did I get myself into?
Yes. Sasa hiyo ushaambia watu
Ushaambia
that
watu,
society.
ushadeclare
Sasa
to the
uko na
world.
pressure.
So,
It's not that we are happily
I
helping
know.
you bear that
You know,
burden.
Rev was
You
saying,
That we feel locked. Ulisha make a decision for this person. Umeshaambia your mother, your friends, whoever. Alafu tena urudi hapo uambie it seems.
alafu na hii disclosure na nini, na pia hii
To be fair, most of the time, okay, in my little or much experience as a minister, most of the time men disclose their past. Men are the ones who are usually caught up with a woman's past. The times I've heard about a child has been discovered, mostly it has come from the woman. Men, if they have 16 children, most of the time they will say, me, by the way, I have 16 that I know. And there are others who I'm not sure of.
Look, before we go there, maybe I should say, as a caveat to what you said about this divine gift that you say
the
women
the
have,
women have
it's that the man moves on quickly. Ati mimi nimekubali hivi ndo kumeenda nini, I moved on, started dating someone else. Kwanza hata it's someone who was their friend already.
within the circle, yes,
Like
yeah.
mpaka unashindwa ama you used to like this girl when I was
transition was too
Funny,
smooth.
eh,
and then
it
to
was
a girl who
too-
has been in our circle.
Imagine.
You get, it's like you used to have something with her even before.
No, it's most likely probably he's just going to familiar territory.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, familiar territory.
Is that any
And
better?
sometimes, no, it may not be better, but sometimes
Might not be
the reason
better.
that would happen, I would imagine, a lot of people who do that immediately, those are not usually good, well thought out decisions, by the
Yeah,
way. Eh?
yeah,
Because it means,
Yani
it's what they call the
umekubali
rebound. Eh? You're going on the rebound. You're looking to, girls take longer and therefore heal better.
That's true.
That's what I wanted
And,
to
That's
and
say.
true.
they face
Sasa,
the
That's
issues
Yeah.
more, whatever. But the
Yeah.
guy that usually just slides on, and kumbe he's looking for comfort.
yeah.
And so a lot of times, by the time he's in that relationship, it's not well thought through. And
Yeah.
many of them also won't last. Eh? And the reason
Yes.
we're saying is he's just looked for the next, person that
Yes.
probably where the resistance would be lower because they are familiar. And there he is. They are walking, but it's not really his girl. He doesn't know her. You know, in the sense of you're the one I want to spend the rest of my time with. Most likely, it's this is the most comfortable place I can be right now.
Yeah.
So it's selfish also.
Yeah.
And it's a way of comforting oneself rather than that you're well thought out.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe the lady might take a little longer, but she's looking now for because she's evaluating this relationship, didn't work out very well, what went wrong, I don't want to get into the same fix the next
Yeah,
time. So
yeah.
she kind of thinks through the next relationship a lot
So,
better and it takes
the next,
longer.
and that's exactly
Oh,
what I
that's
say.
true,
And
yeah.
then what happens is, we umechukua one whole year, umeaibika huku nje because your boyfriend already moved on, you are still holding on, people are saying you're holding on. And then a year later, you start dating, or you heal. Kidogo kidogo. One day, a text comes into your phone.
Uko
Unauliza,
Familiar territory.
yani,
Ataka uvaange glasses unatisha
and then he's
uangalie.
texting you, oh, I'm just checking up on you. I just want to know how you're
Ni uongo.
doing. I just ukianza kudate unaona na kuuliza, I heard that you started
heard that
dating.
you
I'm
got
like,
any-
why does it matter to you? You are dating
Mbona
and you
unasema
started dating
ukweli?
a month after you broke up with me. Mbona unakani kama unanifuatilia kwa life?
But is there space for people who have broken up to be civil? Like,
What do you mean?
no, I'm just asking, like basic information. Unajua, because I used to be your ex, and this world is filled with rumamongers and people who spin tales around. So even if I could catch a briefing, once
There's nothing civil about that
it's
text.
civil,
There's
like not a
nothing
text.
civil
No, I'm not talking
about
about.
that
I'm not
asking.
talking about that text. I'm just talking about how, in our context, and I am happy to be corrected, a broken relationship is you can't be friends, you can't be the same fellowship. I mean, because you used to date before,
Yeah.
why does it need to spell doom
Yeah.
to any sort of human interaction we can have in future? I'm not saying we'll be best friends,
And no one is saying that.
Yeah.
In fact,
but
we
Yeah,
are
in
that's
most
not
cases, that's what usually
ni juu ya
happens.
kuumwa, roho
Eh,
inauma.
that's not our point. Because huyu mwenye anakuja ako na different agenda. Yeye ni ile
Alright, now
ni
there-
ile
there are
grass
those ones.
nilikanyaga
Sasa hiyo
nikaiacha,
unadiscover, he never
imewachaliwa
moved on
huko. He
from
never
me.
moved on from you.
Alafu unajua, let me tell you Jasmine, this men they are ni wajanja because what mi naonanga hivi, in public they do that moving on, and in public they come, they even show Mwaura our marriage pastor,
Yes.
this is my new girlfriend, I'm dating her, I'm coming to PMCC, nini.
My new catch.
My new catch. So everyone knows. But after those 6 months, when he comes back to text you kuchini ya maji, and maybe they break up, and now he wants you back, and then he starts to text you, he never tells anyone. Wewe
Inakuanga chini kabisa.
ukimkata,
Yes.
you will never know that
That's
that gentleman came back to that
That's
guy.
it,
So
yes.
he keeps saying,
humility.
Never
in
know. Yes.
humility.
That's
You
what
can't
you
go
have.
na kuna wimbo inasemanga,
What
you
do you
come
want?
crawling back to me.
But
Right.
we are not the Kardashians, so that every decision has to be
But
reflected
Lakini
on
sisi
TV.
pain yetu umeiandika huko nje. This girl has not
Umeanika
moved on
the
from
pain,
me.
there's the shame we've gone through umeniaibisha na kwanza shame ya
Oh,
vile ume move on haraka na ukaideclare
Jasmine.
hapo ukaonyesha
Because
baby mi
listen,
uliza hizi
Ni
vitu
kama he
haraka
never
sana
loved you, because if he did love you for sure, anaweza kuwa
angeonyesha some
ameenda tu
remorse
hivyo.
time, you
I
know,
know.
let's transition slowly
This when-
together.
Remember last week? Together,
Una,
we're helping each
umeacha
other.
together.
Do you
So we
remember
were
last
in
week when
this,
we
we
even
meant
talked about how
something.
you take a break in a relationship, you can come back, but you took the break. Me, I'm telling you, this gentleman, when you take a break with them, hiyo wiki moja, ako huko Diguna, ako huko Nyama Choma, ako huko sijui wapi. Wewe uko na wasichana wako
That's
munalia.
how we heal.
Munalia.
Managing.
That's how we
Every
manage.
time it rains, you take the advantage to cry because no one will know you are crying. You that whole week,
That's
you're
how we
just
manage.
Vizuri Diguna,
Yeah,
Katoloni.
ako.
I mean, it's really
That's how we
dealing
manage.
with
Katoloni, si kwa Mungu.
Nothing
You get-
close to
so
Katoloni.
maybe we can hear from you. What's the way best,
Yeah.
the best way to deal with this? How would you prefer maybe the men to know this is how you can, when you break up or the relationship end, this is what to do? What are those steps?
And then
You
as
know,
you
we
answer,
said we'd
Eh,
refer to that situation. You broke it up. I really respect you and I appreciate the years you've been together, but the truth is I have another girlfriend. So should I not say? Should I tell my girlfriend to wait for 1 year because of the rain before we say? So explain to us as men, for the viewers, sorry,
Yes, we're leaving.
for the viewers, how we are supposed to behave in light of the truth that I really do have another girlfriend. So how do I honor my new relationship and still honor the
you know
the sanctity of what we
of what
share?
we had before. You know, actually, Revlovi, our problem is not that. It's not the new girlfriend or anything. It's what happens between the breakups and getting onto to the new girlfriend. For us, we're saying the 2 weeks it takes to get to the new girlfriend. Oh, Kidhani, the thing we've built for years. At least utaonyesha
know.
some remorse, take some time. Our issue is usually the transition from there to the new girlfriend. It's so sharp. Hata we ujuangi uko umse alikuwa ananicheza.
Yeah.
Tukiwa pamoja,
For
alikuwa
sure.
elsewhere.
For
He
sure.
was eyeing some, that's what we have a problem with. Girlfriend,
saying it's
you are
not
allowed
true.
to nini.
So you want someone
No.
to go to,
Bishop hapa amesema ni ukweli. Bishop amesema you are looking for comfort,
yes.
which means even that other girl you're going to hurt her. Because it might
And
it
it's
can
not
rebound, it
always.
might not
Not
last.
always.
always.
People
Not
have
always.
married
Yeah,
the
you can
rebound.
reach there and you see this is where God meant
There's a
actually.
good chance.
Yeah.
God
God
ameingia
meant
kwa
me
hiyo
to be in
question
here.
sasa.
This is where kumbe this. Oh God! Even this is how there's a microwave.
Kwani God
There
wasn't
is
in the
whatever.
other
And huko
one?
niko napepeta maka.
Kwani God wasn't in the
Isaac
other one?
went to rest and dug a well, and now the Samaritans worship at that well.
The Lord has given
We
me
know
rest.
to determine
Because
time.
can
A
we say
good
that-
time frame.
we need to
After
determine-
which now people
Yes.
can be allowed to start
We
dating
will need to
again.
determine that time and we'll do it right after the break.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Right
That's quite
after-
fast.
Right.
God of Abraham, you're the God of covenant and of faithful promises. Time and time again, you have proven you'll do just what you said. Though the storms may come and the winds may blow, I remain steadfast. And let my heart learn when you speak a word, it will come to pass. sun to the setting same, I will praise your name. Great is your faithfulness to me. God, from age to age, though the earth may pass away, your word remains the same. Yeah, your history can prove there's nothing you can't do. You're faithful and true. Though the storms may come and the winds may blow, I remain steadfast. And let my heart learn, when you speak a word, it will come to pass. Great is your faithfulness to me. Great is your faithfulness to me. From the rising sun to the setting same, I will praise your name. Great is your faithfulness to me. I put my faith in Jesus, my anchor to the ground, my hope and firm foundation. He'll never let me down. I put my faith in Jesus, my anchor to the ground, my hope and firm foundation. He'll never let me down. I still bless you in the middle of my storm, in the middle of my trial. I still bless you. I still bless you. I still bless you in the middle of the storm, in the middle of my trials. I still bless you. I still bless you. And I'll testify of the battles you won, how you were my portion when there wasn't enough. I'll sing a song of the seas that we crossed. The waters you
Niko na maswiti. Welcome back from the break. We are excited. The team is on fire here. Very controversial. Are they controversial issues? I don't know.
Quite.
I don't know. We're
Life
still
issues.
not on one page, but we shall soon determine the way to go. I think our question was, when it comes to moving on, we started on X's. When it comes to moving on, we need to define the time period, you know, for all of us to be on one page. We need a compromise. We need to define this time. Because sisi tunaumwa. You guys move on. By guys, I mean here, the male species. The human male species. Let me define that way.
This other species.
In this yeah, they move on super fast. Sisi tuko stuck hapo tuki question, guy, was what we had even real?
Real.
You know, so we want to determine that. But before we do it, I'll invite Lorraine to read some of the comments that you have on our YouTube page from you, our people, viewers, and fans.
Absolutely. You people love this dating topics. So, Njoki Kimani Karibu, you are the first one to comment and you said, show iko moto ya ye. Hapo kwa majama ku move on so fast ni ukweli. Njoki, we are here with you. Kevin, you're saying, we always disclose our past. This was zingine ni chocha from haters. It's not true. They will only discuss if close if you ask.
Did you see his first comment, actually?
What
did you
did
see
he
there's
say?
a
What did
previous
he say?
comment he's saying? Getting a girl immediately is part of the moving on. It
Exactly.
doesn't say anything about the ex. And then anaongeza hiyo ya pili.
Oh, nimeona huko chini. Okay.
Go ahead.
Haya. Kevin, you're also saying, Reverend Lorraine, when we date your friend, it means we've gone for someone we're familiar with. But you knew what the bishop was going to say.
And that means that you are in a, you are in a very healthy community. You get? Yes, I mean, it's very, very good. It's very, very safe for me. Instead of going out there where the world is crazy, let me do here. This is very familiar.
But you're thinking of yourself only. What about the other girl who is in that
even as
community?
a function of investment, when you have made a heavy investment, ikachoma, you go for the safe ones now. You start buying bonds, those ones that have a surety of return.
So
It's natural human
So
behavior.
safe investment ni ude mwenye unajua.
But pia, even yeye anakujua pia. You get? Anakujua.
I hope our wasichana someday watawadisappoint.
Wajua aki ndio ukweli aki. Mnafaa muumwe siku moja vizuri.
Haya, Charity amesema kitu interesting hapa. Ati amesema, you guys, she was responding to Kevin, but I think she's telling the guys, you guys disclose sanitized partial information.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Totally
Sanitized
agree.
partial information.
To make me get into the box.
But we are,
And then, kwanza unakanga ni kama, me, I'm not even into that girl anymore.
Anymore.
Lakini ukigundua,
Until wanapatana
ni wewe
tao,
ndio
wanashika na
comfort-
mtetemeko wapi.
anatetemeka. Sasa unajiuliza,
what
kwani
has
what
been-
happens?
it's because we believe in the power of the blood. What we took to the cross and was dealt with comprehensively.
And I don't think you'd be complaining if you are the girl causing mutetemeko.
Yeah.
For sure.
the guys
Okay.
is-
Hapo nayo ni ukweli. Even I've seen a meme that says, unapita unasikia umeshake the roots of that relationship as you were passing by. But, mind you, if you were the ex, for sure ulilia for 1 year. So that by the time he's tetemekaing hata inakucomfort.
Inakunini,
You know, kumbe this guy just pretended. Kumbe even him, he was hurting.
I meant something.
It meant something,
to him.
and that's all we
Yeah.
want to know, by the way.
Yeah.
It's not
Inauma.
it's not ati
Inauma
come back.
even guys.
Onyesha some remorse kidogo aki.
Aya, Charity agrees with me. She says, Rev Lorraine, so true, I can attest. Wana text kisniper na hakuna mtu anajua. You see, the guys out here know what I was talking about.
Then those are bad guys. Those are bad.
Kujulia hali tu.
The good ones, I mean, the good ones. Kama anakujulia hali, wacha tu akujulia hali. But I mean, sometimes you can see that this is now going to the extreme now.
Ama anakujulia hali mara mingi. Sasa sema ni nini lakini you can tell he wants to remain in your radar.
So brothers,
Usimsahau, anajikumbusha in your head.
I still agree.
guys, what do you want? Akinyamaza ali move on haraka. Akinijulia hali ananijulia.
Anasema after ame
So
move
which
on,
one?
After ame move
after
on.
6 months akiona sasa umeanza kupick yourself up together, your eyes you're not crying
Hauna
anymore.
ma-eye bags
Now
na nini.
now the other guys in your community wameanza kuona wanakuja he
Ana
starts
step
he doesn't want you to forget him.
Inauma.
Anaanza
Although
kutext.
sometimes,
Ati inauma.
okay, to be honest,
Inauma, unaona
Amekubali.
no, to be
Mbona
honest,
amekubali?
to be honest, sometimes you have to lose for men. I don't know. May God forgive us for these bouts of foolishness.
Amen.
Sometimes you appreciate what you had
When you
when
lose
you have lost it. So ni aliona by the way that this what I left was what was meant for me, and it was great. And
Sasa hebu think about
I
if you are
chased
that
after.
Imagine.
if you're the one
I
who
chased after a mirage. Sometimes it's actually from honest
a reality.
reflection.
Yeah. And the
hope
comeback
that
is as severe as the second wave.
Yeah.
Unaona? Anakuja amekuchota.
Ndio.
Unajikuta kwa altar saying I do. You know.
With tears
But anyway,
running down.
You are always the one for me. We always knew, you know, I always knew.
I always
So
felt it.
maybe actually that whole circle, doing that whole circle, I'm a reflect na ameona sasa ni ujinga gani.
Ujinga gani?
nimekuja. this was a girl for me.
Yeah.
And so Yoki Sniper, it's a humble way of coming back and saying, I recognize that you are she. Yeah.
You know what?
And
Sasa naanza
by the-
kurumia the girl who is being called the Mirage now.
Sindio, by this hapo pia kuna kashida.
Sasa ona.
What do you
Yeye
want?
pia anafaa kutetewa
Sindio,
sasa
anafaa
because
kutetewa.
mtu
You don't want to be the
amekuconvince.
Mirage.
And that's why I
Yeah.
think Lorraine, and I think that's why if we define this moving on period, I don't know whether we will state the amount of time we should take, like months or years or what, or I don't know what we will say. This is now good enough for you to progress. Ita tete huyo demo Mirage pia, because pia yeye clearly
But just me-
ako kwa shida.
But
Amekutwa
Jasmine,
na hiyo mambo
Eh.
ya the guy not
Since this dating is happening also in community,
Yeah.
I think the responsibility lies with everybody.
Yeah.
You are in our circles,
Yeah.
and yet I've broken up with this girl, and the next 2 weeks you are going out with me.
Yeah.
What are you saying?
What are you
But
saying
do you
about
know the
yourself?
things
if I
you
want
say
to
to
get
us?
married and no one was katia me.
Hata sivyo law.
Alafu wewe umekam, kwani mimi nitaacha opportunity. And maybe I've been praying and maybe I've
Look,
said myself the Lord
even
has
before that, the things, the partially sanitized information they come with,
Oh, yeah.
aki
Oh, yeah, that's
unabelieve.
true.
Yeah.
And I
That's
believe
right.
there's no way that guy can present themselves hivyo
That's true.
kama hayuko sawa. So it's
You must tell him, you
Need time.
unamwambia, look, you need to take time to heal.
hebu ona sasa baada
Alafu
nimewekwa
aende
kwa
kwa mtu
nini kwa
mwingine
themeji.
Share the burden.
Wewe useme utake time alafu usituke tena ameenda kwa
Imagine.
mwingine. Wewe ulikuwa unataka kudate.
Ulikuwa unataka kumdate.
So you're taking advantage
Rudini
of a
kwa ile
man who...
community yenu yenye si X na si
Na
mwenye
si
unataka
mwenye
nini,
unaendea.
and find another community.
Oh, you find
Heal
another
up.
Can't
community.
find another community.
Ati you can't.
It's not a co-
You see, you've also invested in this
in
community.
this community.
Yeah. And you
Aya.
see,
Wait, you
see-
guys now you're arguing
and you
about
see-
Community is our life coping
Ebu finish
space.
law.
All right,
Ebu
okay,
finish.
some comments, Lorraine.
David,
We have to
David,
get-
David, you are saying
At this stage, you take another planet.
Because the community will always be there.
Hapana,
You get- don't
mkae
leave the
hapa,
community
we
and
are
leave us.
men.
No,
Usiende
don't
kwa
leave the
ex na
community.
usiende kwa potential. Huyo si community, huyo ni potential girlfriend.
haya. David anasema anaambia Charity the past hukuja ikiwa raw with much details. Lakini Charity anamwambia but you guys get to be the good guys in all your stories. Si ndio? And I'm thinking, yes, it's very hard to find a guy after breakup ni yeye anaambiwa. It's usually the girl, oh, aliingia kwa
Lorraine,
box haraka.
Lorraine, we object.
Alipelekwa kwa wazazi haraka.
Imagine.
Hakuthink through, hakumuuliza maswali. Ona venye wana disagree hapo.
You have this,
We refuse.
all the
I
stories
am the
I've
one
heard in
with the
the
mic.
world. The guy is always the one who did something. I've never seen I even know the details of the story and I know the atrocities that were committed by the woman. But if you see the Facebook posts of reflection, it's been 6 years of pain. I'm like, you are the one that caused the pain. But yeah, I can't write it there because to preserve her dignity. Every woman is a hero in the story. Every. If a man is to
No, the
divorce a
victim.
woman today,
Like, imagine what
every
he
woman
did
is
to
a
me.
victim.
What he did to me. This is what and
Exactly.
all that.
Me, I'm saying the woman is the hero in the story where kama ni yeye ana post of course. Lakini where the community is concerned, watu wanaonanga kama huyo msichana ni yeye haku make the decision right. Ni yeye aliingia box haraka, ni yeye alikubali
Labda
kwenda kwa
alikuwa
wazazi. It's
Labda-
even cameramen are agreeing. Cameramen are agreeing with us.
And maybe the
We,
labda
the girl
maybe the
kanaweza
community is
jichocha
there.
lakini hata kila mtu
That is
anasema
a
hata umeona
hard
amekuwa
time,
akipost ma status hata haja move on
Imagine,
hata
yeah.
nini it's just ni wewe unabeba hiyo mzigo ya hiyo relationship.
Hebu lo maliza hizi
Acha
comments.
nimalize,
Ama
nimalize
tuachie.
comments.
Akaambiwa hapo sijaribu, then
Mwau Andrew anasema men are not as inhumane as women think. It's just a matter of risk analysis and protecting ourselves from negative energy. Jai. Hence the quick moving on. Tena tumekuwa negative.
Imagine it's no negative
Andrew
energy.
apewe juice.
Yani they've even got scientific terms
Ni
to
negative
define what
energy.
it is.
Aya. Yvonne Nyambura Kamau anasema everyone should simply be a good steward of both yourself and the next partner. So I'd say we should therefore take time to move on within a sensible time frame and seek comfort from our Lord.
Yeah, Jesus.
Amen.
Not your
Hata
potential
community
girlfriend and
wa-
not your
now,
ex. Hi, community.
Seek comfort from the Lord.
The one
That's
who trust-
profound. Thanks, Yvonne.
the one who-
And she says, mambo ya rebounds tuache surely. It's too selfish. How is that loving your neighbor? In fact, and the scriptures command you to love your neighbor. How can you love your ex? You should ask yourself that.
How should you?
How can you love your ex?
Like a neighbor.
By moving on. By moving on.
Actually, by moving on.
Wewe ni neighbor.
Haya. We thank God for grace, but even when they turn into marriage, the motive behind Oh wait, Kevin Wong said, Yvonne, rebounds sometimes turn out into a marriage. A very happy one.
Akimwau.
Yeah. And then Yvonne said, well, we thank God for grace, but even when they turn into marriage, the motive behind them remains selfish. So if we deal with the motive, then at least we'll have much fewer casualties. It's true, even in marriages.
Kabisa.
Usitetemeshwe mkiwa married. Unajua
Yvonne
hili huyu alitetemeshwa 2 weeks before marriage.
Aki.
Wakitetemeshwa after you're married to him for 2 weeks.
Sasa hiyo itakuwa
Na
nini?
umeshasema mbele ya Mungu. Aya,
Now
Lilian
you know your work
Kibagendi.
will be to stand with your husband and support him through the mtetemko.
Through the
Kwa sababu ulisimama ukasema how better I was.
That is the worst. The worst has just come earlier than you expected. But
And marriages are under attack. This could be one. So
Yes.
stand firm.
Aya.
Marine, can I comment on that?
Uh-huh.
I just want to defend the guy who moved on. I don't think he had wicked intention. He was also trying to deal with the situation, with the emptiness of not having you in his life anymore. So even when he was moving on, which he shouldn't do, I condemn it with the strongest terms, to the rebound. I don't think he was wickedly looking to destroy another person's life. It's just part of life's dysfunctions, where you clutch onto something that will give you some sense of sanity. So it's very hard for us to prescribe rationality to that person. That's why I agree with the bishop that this responsibility needs to be shared across
board.
community.
Okay.
Commu- across community.
Yeah. So that you don't ask the
Healthy
victim to take care of
community.
himself.
Not potential.
Okay. Haya, Lilian Kibagendi says, sadly, if you're not married, you should give room to embrace heartbreak. For the sake of community, you forgive and forget. Also respect everyone's process. It can be fast or slow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kevin Mashere says, people heal differently. There are also men who take a year or 2 to heal, while others even a week.
Yeah.
Kama Reverend Lowe.
Hawa wiki
A
ndio
week.
tuko na shida na wao. Hawa wiki ndio tunatry ku understand Kevin.
So that's important because he says, it's a personality thing. Sometimes it's not even a gender thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are
So
many
let's
other
establish
there are many
that,
other
guys.
factors, Jazz.
Ebu ngoja, me aki I want us to establish. Tumekubaliana vizuri sana.
It's a personality
But
thing.
me na feel, is it just a personality
It
thing,
is.
guys?
Yes, it is.
Can
I
I-
think it
Na
is.
kwani all men wako na personality
Can I-
same?
Hata mimi nashindwa.
Are they all pragmatic in
I
life?
have an answer for you.
Eh.
You see, statistically, there was the number of the gay community in the US was what, 5%? Sindio?
Not sure.
It was like 5% in 2019.
It's actually like worldwide.
Yeah. But because they make so much noise, I think half of America is gay. So I think
I
women
see where you're headed.
women know how to tell the story of a breakup. So the narrative, the meta-narrative is men move on faster, but it's because the women who have been moved on faster have told the story more than the men who've been moved on faster. If my girlfriend moves on in a week, there'll be very few people who will know. Probably my boys. Public sympathy is not something that I would fall to because of the shame. For me, it would be an aspect of shame. So I think it's just a function of ability to narrate. And I think women are better at narrating their pain and their story than men.
And even the healing for the ladies.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys know how to heal in community. You know how to identify with heartbreak. Your girlfriends will come, you speak it over, you'll talk details and so on. And of course, that takes time. But you see, for guys, they don't share heartbreak stories. Other men don't want to hear stories of your heartbreak. Is put yourself together, be a man, move
Exactly.
on. Come, I'll buy you a drink. I mean,
Yeah.
that's how men deal, rather bluntly, with emotion. Our software is very poorly put together.
Yeah, it is.
We are all hardware,
We thought so, but thanks for confirming.
So it's not well put together. It's manufacturer's defect. Sio kupenda kwetu. So we don't know how to tell those stories. We don't know how to discuss. We don't know how to empathize with each other. We find it harder than the ladies. So it is true. Even for the guys who take very long to move on, you'll probably just see a person has become withdrawn and they are alone for a long time. You even wonder, doesn't this guy date? But he's still hurting and he can't. You approach him, he's afraid, he's still too wounded to engage. But he won't say it, and maybe the girl who eventually hooks up with him will realize, wow, there was real depth in this man. He's gone through so much, he's been alone. Oh, and you guys like those things. This one,
You've come to be the healing balm by
yeah,
his
you become
wounded
the
heart.
healing balm. The balm, you become the balm of Gilead,
Yeah.
and decide to heal the guy. And he probably will marry you because you've brought great comfort to him.
Marembo mmesikia.
And indeed, actually, most of the time, the guy will be addicted to a substance. As in, for men, you really have to look at the signs to know a man is going through depression or darkness. Because expression is not.
How you
One
would
of
It's
know.
the-
frowned
Feminist.
upon by society, even if you're naturally expressive. Almost every traditional society globally
Yeah.
frowns upon emotional expression by men. There are very few mature societies that allow men that space
Yeah.
to express themselves emotionally. In fact, I was reading about America, final point, America military and the high rates of PTSD. Because, you know, those guys, they
Yeah.
finish their time in service and they lose their minds because of all the things they have seen. Actually, one of the solutions to PTSD in the military is having more women in the military. Because for the longest time, women were not allowed to be part of the military. Now that women are joining the military, it is actually recorded that soldiers are coping better with PTSD. Because women are bringing
Balm of
in that
Gilead
skill.
indeed.
Yeah, the skill that God has naturally given to them for coping and dealing and knowing what is your limit. You know, we don't know our limits as men. And we have to be told to mind our limits. A man can do 5 things that will damage him emotionally without knowing that those things are damaging him, because we are looking at accumulating a statistic. So yeah, we need I think ideally I'm arguing for functional coexistence of men and women. How can we learn from women? How can boys groups,
Yeah.
instead of buying you a pint all the
Yeah.
time when you're going through depression, how can we learn from women on how to empathize with a guy? How can you give space to a man to cry next to other men and not lose his status or his stature?
Yeah.
So that next time he calls me and I'm like, man, this guy start crying. And I don't know.
No, usianze kulia. In fact, you are told ahead of time. Usianze kulia.
Yeah, I don't know what I'll do with this
And
guy.
it can be
I
draining.
think we need to start
We need to
learning
learn.
that functionally.
It's an important one of the things when I was a young pastor, and I went to talk to I went visiting. It was in a foreign country in the West, and the first group that I was talking to was a couples group, and at halfway through, the men were crying.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't know what to do with that, because I don't know a context where it's the men who are crying.
Yeah.
I know when the ladies are crying, we know how to comfort them. And it happened several times, so that when I went now to do a one-on-one marriage counseling with a couple, again, it's a guy who broke down and really cried, very seriously. And again, it really took me aback. And I realized, this is not a space that I'm familiar with as a man. You know how to comfort another man who's crying, especially when the girl is present. She's not volunteering any tears, So it's a learning, and it's not that we don't have emotions, we do, but we are taught, this is not what you do as a man, and it's not a healthy way to live.
not,
I think it's easier if we can be able to vent.
So to the universally acclaimed team,
Yes.
I have this question for you. What then is the time period? Because that's still very important. We need to tell, by the time we're leaving here, we need to tell people, what is their time period? What can people look for to determine, now I am ready to move on to the next one, so that I ensure. So there's the past to take care of, but there's also, we will not call them the exes, because Bishop amekata. Unajua
Na
Bishop
kata
akikata.
Hivyo.
Na
Who are
tuta.
we? We are submitted under the authority.
What can we do then to ensure the past is well taken care of, but also headed into the next with baggage and causing more pain in the next one that you're headed into? So is it a time period we need to determine? Is it certain things that we should do to ensure that we are fine? What do we want to tell the people?
It's a very complex question. Again, it is tied with personality.
Exactly.
You can't run away from personality. King Xerxes, when he jilted Queen Vashti, do you know how long it was before Queen Esther was coronated? It was 4 years. I mean, you see, the Bible doesn't, it seems to simply say, after some time, the king remembered Vashti.
Kwanza your
You know,
statement mi naonanga,
it's a
very
very-
encouraging.
It's a very,
Lakini alikumbuka ule wa huko.
you see, because he had been told, do away with this chick. He was never given a solution.
Yeah.
And he did, because of the laws of the Medes and the Persians that cannot be repealed, and for his own dignity and honor and whatever. But you see, they never took care of, every time all those guys who advised him, they would go home to their wives. The king went home, I don't know whether he had a dog or a cat or whatever it is. He would go home to be alone for a long time. The entire Greek wars happened around that per time. And when he returned, he even lost the war. Because this is a man without, support kutoka home.
Yeah.
When he came back, he remembered her. That's loneliness, and he desired to fill that position. God obviously had provided a greater story because of the story of Esther. But clearly, he had never forgotten her all these years. So he'd never moved on. This is the king. He can quickly acquire another chick if he wanted, but he hadn't, because Vashti meant something to him. So everybody must
What
know
was key.
what is your personality. You don't just bounce back for the community. We do that for sure sometimes, Ati nimewachwa, no, me, I'm okay, I'll move on. But really, what moving on is inside, and it depends on how deeply connected you are with the other individual in terms of your relationship. And even if you do, then you end up, like what you were saying, misusing the other individual, because you're not connecting at the same level, and you are with her, but she can tell you are with somebody else. Your mind, your heart is not with me. And that's very offensive for the person being dated, because they've given their whole self there.
Absolutely.
So I think it's to reflect and to be honest with yourself, and to allow yourself time enough to heal, and to really be over, this other individual.
Yeah.
And part of being over ni hiyo mkikutana usianze kutetemeka ovyo ovyo. If you start, the impact they have on you when they meet, then you will know, I'm not it over this individual, So you give yourself enough time, and it's only fair to you and to the other individual who you will invite into your life later, so that they don't need to be fighting with shadows in that relationship, because it's still the shadow of the other person, who I'll say your former.
Yeah.
I'll not call them the
You
ex.
don't
Refuse. I think also, Jasmine,
Thank
we can work on our attitudes as ladies, because, well, even if it hurts when the guy moves on quickly, he, like, I think it was Reverend Lovey who said, "Am I Reverend Maura? They don't owe you anything, really." So we acknowledge that it hurts.
Yeah.
But they do owe you some civility. I think that at a minimum, I would also agree with what Reverend Lovey said.
Civility in what sense?
In terms of dealing with you, the human part of, respect and honor. Because this is somebody who meant something to you at one point, serious enough to spend a lot of time with. So honor them back for the time that you spend together. Treat them well. Show them that you respect them. And even if they move on to another relationship, honor that relationship too. Yeah.
Let it not look like you were discarded, or you just discarded that other person and moved on as if nothing ever existed before. I think.
But you see, that's what I'm wondering. Even if, I mean, it would be great if they treated you like that, but if they don't,
I mean, it's true. There's also your part, because that's for
you
them
can't
to
walk
deal
around
with it.
saying he's not honoring me, he's not treating me, because he doesn't owe you anything anyway. So you go and cry with your girls.
I think it's what Ivy was saying. We both have to work on our hearts individually and with accountability to God. It's true that we are being commended to do what Bishop is saying for the person moving on. Because we've spoken as if it's only the guy who moves on first. But we also have instances of the lady who just moves on. So it's for both of us to work on these parts and consider we've dealt with this person respectfully before I moved on.
And if you're a believer, you owe it to God and your church and your community. It's not even an ask. This is expected. Otherwise, anything contrary, then you will be deemed immature and unworthy. Really, because see, you're dating a Christian girl within the same community, and believers, we don't. This is not just Jasmine. This is Jasmine. You are easy to refer to, because your name means Jasmine of God, Wangai. So the part of Wangai needs to be honored and respected, because this is not just somebody. This is a child of God. God cares about you. He cares about how I treat you.
Absolutely.
So I can't just treat, go trash talking you and all that. That is called slander. So it even is criminal in the Christian circles to deal with you like that. So I owe it to you if I'm expected to be looked at as a dignified human being within the Christian community. And if I don't, then even the other ladies within the community should be aware of me, because I'm not an honoring person.
Wow.
Although I also think part of the civility is knowing what to share, because some of the things you know about me, you know because of the proximity that we had.
Yeah.
And there's a reason I only shared them with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean that when you break up, now it becomes public news.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
you know, I struggle with gluttony. Let me just give a random example.
Yeah.
Yeah, so again, civility is a stretch, and I agree with the bishop. It's a basic. You should treat him as you treat any other Christian. In fact, it's good to say love your ex as you would love your neighbor, because there are things that people would not do to their neighbors, as God prescribes that we love our neighbors, but they are so happy and willing to do to someone because they are their exes.
Yeah.
So the rules of Christendom still apply
They still
Yeah.
apply
to
to
the
this
person,
person.
Who has wounded
regardless
you
of the pain
emotionally.
that they have caused you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you.
And I think that the foundation of that is, as Bishop has said, is that honest evaluation of yourself, you know, and that should lead you to accepting how things are. You know that maybe you may never go back. You get,
Yeah.
you tried your best, and there is a beautiful life ahead of you. I think that acceptance will help you deal with this journey of, you know, have they moved on?
Yeah.
Just nosing around. It's 2 weeks, or
I
what is happening in their
know,
lives? Just accept this didn't work.
Yeah.
This didn't
Stalking
work.
them on social media to
Yeah.
see who they are posting now.
Yeah.
Na kama alitoa zako, unajua maybe they had posted you before. Sasa unaangalia.
Alizidelete.
Kama,
And whether they are happier than in their new
Wana-
life than you
yeah,
are
wanakaa
yourself.
happy. You know?
That's usually the basis. And it's really ironical because you begrudge them joy and happiness. You know, and if they are happy,
Yeah,
then
yeah.
it's like an affront and an offense against you. But this is the complexity of humanity. It also, in a sense, says that they did sincerely love you. You know, otherwise they would not be all over you and all over your social media.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I dated
Yeah.
before social media. You know, it never
Pasi,
existed.
hey,
By
you
the
better
way,
be glad.
umeokolewa by the way,
What?
sana sana.
What?
Yeah. Maura, you were saying something. You can finish your thought.
Oh, okay, I can't recall. I think that now that acceptance, you will be able to treat them well. You know, there's some people who, you know, someone has left you, and then you hear the drama in their lives, and you're so happy. You know, now they are being served. Justice is being
Yeah,
served.
things are not working out.
Fresh,
I
hot.
think yeah, you know, let us cultivate, I think, that self-control. This is also a child of God. Accept and,
Yeah.
you know, exercise that civility as you have been told. Don't rejoice when they are really going through a hard
They're
time.
suffering also.
Yes, but again, be cautious again in extending care. Otherwise, you might rekindle something that
Yeah.
was there, or even bring more strife into your current relationship.
Absolutely.
And then let me also ask that I'm beginning to appreciate the place of community in all this, and to see why God was very insistent in spending so many texts of scriptures to build functional community around Israel, because there's a responsibility that is beyond the two, that the rest of us have to bear, and that responsibility cannot be shunned.
Yeah.
Like, we who are your friends cannot always be on your side. That's not functional friendship. We can't be the ones trash talking you more than the guy. You know, there's this false illusion that your friends have to be more hard than you, or to prove the
Their
loyalty.
loyalty.
Yeah, so the chicks are talking bad about the guy, they're hating
Yeah.
on him, they're
Yeah.
the ones spreading the rumors and saying
Absolutely.
he doesn't deserve her. The guys are also saying, that chick, me, I never even liked her from day one. Let me be honest. You drink a pint, get a chick that is at your level. That chick was not holding you down. There's a place where we who are friends
You
to
know,
a couple
woman.
that is going through pain
Yeah.
need to be responsible in how we help them manage the process of a breakup, and also how we preserve the dignity of the person who we don't think deserves it.
Yes.
Whose loyalty to our loyalty to you was
To
because
them.
you were dating our friend, but because we are a Christian community, it needs to go beyond that. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's selfishly because the time that we used to lose with you was because you were with your wife. So she's an enemy subconsciously, because Friday we wanted to do pints and then
Yeah.
your
Sasa
wife
she
never
wants
allowed
you
to
home.
come. So now selfishly we know, see, we have this guy all our lives, we can go by climbing
Yeah.
in Tanzania. So we start subconsciously working against your
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah.
So I'm beginning to see myself, to ask myself, what is my functional place as a Christian and as a member of community in my brothers, in my covenant brothers' life when they go through such a thing, and how can I be godly in preserving even the dignity of the person that they have broken up with.
Wow, guys.
You know,
Thank you.
Just a minute.
Yes, one last, yes. When I start saying thank you.
Inamaanisha tunamaliza.
Yes,
Someone
go
is
ahead.
asking, and I have that question also. She Konyo Emma, she's saying, what does honor look like for a previous partner? Ndio pia usimpe false hope na upewe false hope.
Oh,
And I
it
thought-
looks like they want to come back or something.
It's like because, and I thought my addition to that question is, for you to have liked that person enough to date them, there's something about them that intrigues you. Sindio?
Yeah, yeah.
Haijaenda
Hopefully.
mahali, still there.
Haijaenda iko hapo, we might have done to each other things, but
Yeah.
it's still there. Alafu you're in the same community. Alafu, you're treating each other, well, as Christians nicely. Unajua because huyo mtu bado ako in your space, your heart might start, you get.
Unaweza anza
Yeah.
kumlead
And you
on
might,
tena.
and you might have someone already. So how do you protect that space so that you're treating them with respect and with honor, but in your process of kumwekea chai, maybe ile skadi nilikuwa naongelea, you don't start feeling
Like kujiposition, Ruth style.
But you see, that's why we say that language. That's why I don't like the language of ex.
Yeah.
Because it might not be your ex.
It's true.
It might be your future,
It
but
might be your future.
Bad.
You know, I mean, how many relationships break and then they make up and they go on
Exactly.
to marry?
To
You
marriage,
see,
it's
in fact, every good relationship you must break up several times. That's my argument.
And then
if you
Bishi, you
don't-
keep arguing for
Yeah.
that thing, kabisa.
maybe someday he will tell us his story. Maybe he
Someday
broke
we
up
will
with
go
it.
through that,
Maybe there's a
Bishop.
history
It's
there.
rehearsal for Nini. It's
There's a
rehearsal for the real life.
For what is
'Cause
coming.
marriage is about, enduring and persisting. And it's about disappointments and then still moving on. So you can't start, you're calling them your ex, and maybe you're just on the first rebound. You'll come back, there will be two more along the way, but you'll still end up with the same individual. I
Yeah.
think don't be too hasty to assume because you broke up with this person there, therefore there is no future. The future might actually be there.
Yeah.
But in terms of your question, it's a good question. If you do want to still continue, you should continue to honor. I think COVID has given us new language, social distancing.
Yeah.
It's very important.
Yeah.
And there is a respectful distance that you keep
You
with
need
each
to
other.
keep, yeah.
Because you're not safe with each other in terms of the attraction is still there.
Yeah,
You see,
yeah.
so you must keep a certain distance, and in keeping that distance, then you also become a bit more objective. You're able to see some of the issues that caused you to fall apart more objectively from a distance when they're not hurting you at a very personal level or at a very close proximity. Obviously, you're not going out together, so you're not dating.
Yeah.
You limit the conversations you're having on text and so on. Muonane tu kimbali, and then give each other enough space to be objective, to heal, and then to decide, is this still the person for me or are they not anymore? Even if especially if they're dating, really, really keep off so that you're not the issue, that is going to cause friction. They may date and it might not go very far, Then if that time they start snipering you, then wacha wewe.
Kuna
Unajua hapa
anything
tu ndio utarudi. Then maybe
Yeah.
that could be a future.
Yeah.
But in the space when they're dating, you give them their space, you put your life together. Don't also go to look for a date so that mtoshane.
Yeah.
If you're doing that, by the way, just come together, muache hiyo wana sababu you're competing, or you have a date, even me, I'll have a date, so you're still living, you're being defined by each other. You're doing this, so will I. So you're still together. You're in the relationship. You're just trying to show each other who can endure more, pain.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So you shouldn't do that.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much. This discussion has to continue next week. We are
Oh,
not
yeah?
done. But anyways, asanteni sana for joining in, for your answers. Sijui kani answers ama nini. What were they? For their points, for their hearty, for the hearty conversation. Thank you so much for making time. We're coming to the end of the show today. Until next week, have a blessed weekend.